If after the end of this review you decide to buy this rod, I want you to know that there is no reel in the world that matches this rod better than the new Vanquish 1000 size. Both in terms of aesthetics and in terms of feel, these two items are an absolutely perfect 100 out of 100 perfect match. There is a big difference between the prices of these items. The rod is like $140. The reel is like $400. But let me tell you, somebody in heaven, when they were designing this rod and this reel, they meant them to be together. Cheap and simple EVA foam butt. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this foam butt. You can replace this butt with the most expensive fishing rod butt on the market. And I promise you, you will not feel any improvement in the performance of the rod. It might even feel worse because the different weight might change the balance of the rod, and the balance of the rod is perfect the way it is. Like I said, absolutely nothing wrong with the butt, except that it's kind of ugly and it shows no taste and no imagination. Really just a simple conical shape. You couldn't get any other shape, any other material. It just shows no imagination. The other thing that I kind of resent stronger than just the lack of taste is the thickness of the butt. Why so thick? This entire rod is needle thin. It is absolutely needle thin. It's exactly 6 millimeters is the diameter of the blank right over here. I measured it. This is a super thin, super elegant rod. The fattest part of this entire rod, and much fatter than even the handle, is this butt. Nothing wrong with the butt, but you know, this is Olympic graphite leather. Please select something that is still cheap but a little bit more elegant. At least don't make it conical, just make it a cylinder. Beautiful section here between the butt and the reel seat. And this is the exact model that I have. I have not touched any of the other models, but this one here is 6 foot 2 inches, which is, I call your attention to that because it's hard to find a super ultralight rod that long. Those of you who don't know, super ultralight power is one level lower, one level weaker than ultralight power. And this is, I will tell you right away, a true super ultralight power rod. Tubular tip, as you can see. Lure rating 0.5 to 5 gram. Can you cast 5 grams with this rod and not snap the tip? Sure, you can do it, but to me, after 2 grams, maybe 2.5, you're gonna start to overload the tip. You will not break it, but once you start to overload it, you are kind of changing the user experience. I have told you several times in prior videos, I am against this rating for the rod here of pounds. What does this mean, pounds? It gives people the impression, the false impression, that as long as they use line no more than 4 pounds, the rod will not break. When this has nothing to do with safety, folks. The tip of this rod will snap with a 1/2 pound bluegill if you hold it vertical. This will not protect you from stupidity, and it's misleading. Really, the reason they put this here is because they convert this into line diameter. So if you have very small guides, this will be like a max of 2 pound line or max of 3 pound line. but it should really say line diameter max 0.14 millimeter. Even 0.14 millimeter is too much for the guides of this rod. I would say the maximum line diameter for this rod is 0.13 millimeter, but really it should be no more than 0.12. Otherwise, the line exit will be loud, you're not going to get enough casting distance, and it will just ruin your fishing experience altogether. But yeah, what this really means is that you need to use thin line with this rod. This reel seat / rod handle is Olympic's own rod handle. They make it themselves. It's unique and you can find it in many of their rods. It's an elegant looking rod handle in my opinion. It's also pretty comfortable where your hand is touching it. Very good contact, even though it doesn't look like much, but it's actually pretty comfortable over here. I definitely very much like this larger carbon pipe here because it provides better contact with the palm. I really have no complaints against this reel seat in terms of aesthetics or functionality. The only complaint, as always, is the length. I have a few of them that are not too short, but almost always come too short for people of European descent with large hands. I always have to add cork behind the reel seat for my palm or in front of the reel seat for my thumb. Rarely there is a rod that doesn't need cork. And this rod definitely needs cork. You buy a Japanese rod and you have to add cork and electrical tape. How does this sound to you? There is a piece of, ridiculous moment there, even though at the end it's pretty comfy. And from over here, you can't even tell what I did with the electrical tape there. This rod, if you didn't capture that in the title, the name of the model is BELLEZZA UX. I also had the BELLEZZA prototype. I also had the Corto prototype. And I will tell you right away, and I want to highlight that, the BELLEZZA UX feels nothing like the BELLEZZA prototype. I mean, nothing at all. And the reason it feels nothing like the Corto prototype is because other than the reel seat, they don't share. I think even the reel seat was different. Yeah, I think the two rods do not share a single component. Only the paint scheme. It's not even paint. It's kind of the color of this carbon pattern. These two rods share not a single component together. They feel very different. The prototype models, if anything, the BELLEZZA prototype feels more like the Corto prototype than the BELLEZZA UX. The prototype models are very sharp, very high content carbon blanks, very fast recovery, just much sharper feeling rods altogether. You will see at the end of the video, I really like this rod here. But one thing you should get out of your head immediately, that buying the BELLEZZA UX is simply buying the BELLEZZA prototype at a discount. You are not buying the BELLEZZA prototype at a discount. The BELLEZZA prototype is completely different product in terms of feel, in terms of performance, and these two rods share not a single component together. 25 centimeters and 10 more, 40 centimeters. After the first 40 centimeters from the butt over here to this section of the rod, all rods made in Japan look pretty much the same, don't they? They're gonna be black with no clear coat, or sometimes they have very little clear coat. They have the same texture, the same color, the same look. From here all the way to the tip, all of these rods made in Japan look pretty much the same. But this blank does have something very special and very valuable to me. And that is that the diameter of the blank at this point right over here, the diameter is only 6 millimeters. That is it. There is very few rods that you will find with only 6 millimeters of diameter here. The diameter being 6 millimeters here is the reason for this rod being super ultralight power, not ultralight, but super ultralight power. And the other thing that it does is it makes it moderate fast action. If you have the fat pipe here, gonna be fast or even extra fast action. I changed my opinion about the guides of this rod after just one session of fishing with it. My initial opinion about these guides was kind of negative. Not about the material. These are, by the way, steel frame guides, stainless steel, but okay, steel frame guides with thick inserts. Now, if you tell me, Victor, this is $150 rod from Japan, what guides do you think it's gonna have? I will tell you in 9 out of 10 cases, it will have steel frame with thick inserts. Nothing wrong with steel frame with thick insert guides. That's not what I didn't like. I didn't like that this is a super ultralight power rod. Why did you need a 2-foot guide? Okay. You know, these elegant titanium frame guides, they're all single foot to save weight. But here we have a double-footed guide. So first of all, you have steel instead of titanium, which, you know, steel is heavier than titanium. And then instead of like a short 1 foot, we have 2 long feet to support the guide. So this is what I didn't like. I was like, did you have to use a 2-foot guide? And did you have to use such a long frame? However, when I fished this rod, oh my gosh, this rod feels amazing. This blank is not very expensive. It's not one of those 99.9% carbon blanks, but the rod is somehow super sensitive, both on the cast, on the twitch, on the bite, on everything. This is a very sensitive rod, and I think the reason for that is that because the guide is double-footed and the feet are made of steel instead of titanium, it is extremely rigid. This guide is rigid because those slick, and I love, man, they look slick, those titanium frame torzite insert guides, they're so slick and elegant. They have single foot, very short, but they are flexi bendy. These guys are, the frame is so soft, they are flexi bendy. No flexi bendy here. This is one rigid guide that just transfers sensitivity down the blank. You are not losing nothing due to the guide here. High quality connection of the 2 pieces. This is the usual high quality connection that you expect out of Japan. And this here is the tip. What is interesting about the tip is that if you look at the diameter, it is actually not that thin. And the diameter right over here is 1.2 millimeters, which is not thin. I have thinner tips than that. And keep in mind, this is a super ultralight rod, and still the tip is not that thin. And this is tubular tip, not a solid tip. So you have a pretty firm tip on that rod. And this firm tip is probably, I don't know, 30 or 40% of the reason why I absolutely love this rod. The other 50 or 60% is the thin base of the blank that I just showed you. but thin base with firm tip makes for awesome feeling rod. Man, this video is already 15 minutes long, folks. We're gonna have to do the rest of this video a little bit faster. So let's go real fast through the properties of the rod, because I want to spend 5 minutes on the final summary at the end. So let's go through them real quick. First of all, action. The action of the rod, as you should expect by now. If I tell you very thin blank at the base, but it has very firm, very sensitive tip, that makes for only one action, and that will be moderate fast. And this rod has an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, moderate fast action, because it's perfect for twitching, but it's not too sharp, and I still enjoy this action for swim baits, spoons, really for everything. You know, the Eradicator is called Slow Taper Special. I never really liked that name. I think this rod should be called Slow Taper Special. Next thing, quickly, the weight of the rod. Before you know the weight of the rod, you need to know the power and the length. Otherwise, the weight is meaningless. You can have very light rod, but if it's like extra ultralight and only 4 feet long, then it's easy to make it very light. This rod here is super ultralight, and it's 6 feet 2, 6 foot 2. So this is a pretty long rod, and it is 59 grams. Now 59 is grams for such a long rod. This is a very light rod. To give you an idea, the Legend Elite Panfish is only 6 foot, but weighs 66 grams. The Yamaga Blanks is 66 grams too. Now those two are ultralight, so it's not exactly apples to apples, but this, you're gonna even find $300 rods that are heavier than this, okay? The Eradicator is 56 grams, which sounds only 3 grams better, but the Eradicator is also a little bit longer. So you can say the Eradicator is a little bit lighter, then the Presso Air AGS is a lot lighter, but as I said, it's a very light rod. One thing is, I always thought when I put it on the scale, I don't even know what it says on the website. I swear I don't know what it says on the website. On my scale it says 59 grams. I thought this is very misleading. In the hand, I promise you, this rod feels like a 49 gram. It feels like absolute elite $350, $400 rod. It feels absolutely spectacular in the hand. Perhaps because I fished it the whole time with a $140 gram, I wish it was $140, 140 gram Vanquish. But even if you put something like a Presso here or Complex XR, it's 155, due to the balance, maybe due to this ugly butt here, it feels like a 49 grams. So don't get turned off by the weight of this rod. It has spectacular feel in the hand. Let's talk about a recovery. I'll try to show you the recovery. I have talked about recovery in previous videos. A recovery is, the speed of recovery is when you wobble or when you shake the rod, how quickly does it stop wobbling? If you shake it and it stops wobbling immediately, this is a very fast recovery rod. And I'm gonna say, you can tell this rod does not wobble. But is it as fast as the Corto prototype? No, it's not. Is it as fast as the BELLEZZA prototype? No, it's not. Like I said in the previous case, it's very close to the $300 Japanese rods, but not quite there. But the Eradicator, for one, does not have better recovery. I think this rod actually has a little bit faster recovery than the Eradicator. Recovery is not that critical. Don't get too hung on this. Who doesn't love the Eradicator? Love it to death, but I've said in many videos, it's not the rod with the fastest recovery. Just because it's so long and thin, it does shake a couple of times because before it recovers completely. But yeah, very fast recovery, but not the fastest. Sensitivity. Even if you forget the price tag of this rod, it's a spectacularly sensitive rod. I don't know how that is possible because this is not expensive blank. The blank is, I don't want to say cheap, but definitely cheaper than the prototype rods, than the Corto and the BELLEZZA prototype. You can immediately tell, or the Presso AGS, when the rod is 99.9% carbon, it feels kind of dry and carbony. You don't have that feel here, so I would expect kind of disappointing sensitivity, but I don't know what is the reason. Is it this handle here? Is it the extra length? Is it the firm tip? The firm tip is absolutely critical for sensitivity. If you don't have firm tip, you can forget about sensitivity. Solid tip rod, it's a different animal. You're not going to get sensitive rod with a solid tip. But I think, as I said over the table, because these guides are so rigid, they kind of transfer the vibration from the line onto the blank, and it travels down to your hand without any loss. This rigidity really helps with sensitivity. Anybody who touches this rod will be impressed with sensitivity. It is definitely more sensitive, notably more sensitive than the St. Croix Legend Elite Panfish, which costs 3 times as much as this rod. And it's definitely more sensitive than all of those people sent me quite a few comments. G. Loomis released several ultralight models recently that are very expensive, $300–400. When I see the thickness of the blanks and the type of guides they used, I can bet money this rod is more sensitive than anything G. Loomis makes in the ultralight segment. Very impressed with the sensitivity of this rod. Okay, so we talked about all of the properties of the rods, and they are all impressive and pretty much on par with the $300 rods made in Japan. However, this is not a $300 rod. This rod, folks, I bought it for $135 before shipping. And I got it shipped to United States for $15. So I bought this rod 2 months ago for $150 shipped. Before the video started, I was thinking, what else can I compare this rod to in terms of value? And I'm not just talking about fishing rods, reels, jigs, line, anything you can think of. Can you think of another item that is worth a lot more than its price tag? And I've been doing ultralight tackle reviews for pretty much 5 years now, and I did a lot of reviews. The only item that I can think of that is just worth a lot more than its price tag, and it kind of compares to this rod, is the Daiwa Legalis reel. It's not a rod, it's a reel, but I told you, this reel is so much better than the price tag suggests. It makes buying pretty much any other reel under $200 just pointless. I cannot come up with another example that is such an amazing value. And this rod at $135 competes with the Legalis for amazing value. You know, I love the $60 Daiwa Presso for float fishing, and it's the best ultralight under $100. But honestly, the Presso cannot compare to this rod in terms of value. It's amazing, but you know, everything is, it cannot compare to this rod. This rod, to me, if I know that this rod is sold out and it will never be available for sale again, and somebody offered to buy it from me for $300, I will not sell this rod. I will not sell this rod for $300, honest word. I don't know any of the other models. I have not tried the shorter models, but this specific model that I reviewed, the 6'2" Super Ultralight, this model is worth easily double the manufacturer suggested price. And here is the reason why I think this rod feels so spectacular in your hand. I said I love the action, moderate, fast action, but it's easy to make a moderate fast action, even a moderate fast action that doesn't wobble, if you make it short. The Presso Air AGS has even more parabolic action than this rod. And it doesn't wobble. It probably has just a little bit faster recovery than this, but it's only 5'10". And this rod is 6'2". To find a rod that is so long and so thin, and the guides are so small, and it is still so sharp and crisp, why does this rod not wobble? If it is so thin, why does it not wobble? This is so difficult to find in a fishing rod. You can get these 2 or 3 of these characteristics in a rod. You can get moderate fast action. You can get short tip. You can get a long rod. But is it all of these? Is it long and sharp and thin and sensitive and elegant? It is difficult at any price. It's just difficult the moment you make them long, they start to wobble. And manufacturers regrettably avoid any product with a little bit of wobbliness because people don't like that. I don't mind a little bit of wobble, but people just back out of it right away. And then to tell me that this rod costs only $135, this is absolutely phenomenal. The moment you fish with this rod, like after the first cast and a couple of twitches and then a few bites and then you hook up the first bluegill and you already have this smile and you're kind of nodding, this feels like the Eradicator. I know the guides are cheaper, the blank is cheaper, but this is just unmistakable feel of the Eradicator. This long, thin, elegant, and yet crisp and sensitive, super ultralight power. If you are never able to find the Eradicator, but you find this rod, you are 95 or 98% there. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Bye bye.